Take a wild guess at what I'm doing. I'm going about half the speed of smell. I'm in the 76, going 1.1 mile an hour, which is first gear with the throttle wide open. But I'm down at the valley, and we're in the lower bottom. The upper bottom is that way. It's been a little over a week since we were down here making this hay up, and Dad came down and tried to rake some of this lower bottom up. It was too soft. There was still some water standing in parts of it. There's a little water standing back to the left back there. But I can't just leave this windrow lay. So it's about 20 feet worth of material. Well, not quite 20. We'll say 18 feet of material. So I don't want it to kill off the grass that is underneath it. And it's been as long as it's been, and the grass is just now starting to make its way through that windrow. So all I'm going to do is grind it up, mulch it up. I got the cutter is dragging right down on the ground as low as I can literally get it. Going as slow as I can to grind up the stuff as fine as I can get it. I'm going to be going all the way down. I'm going to come right back around, right over top this again, and grind it up as fine as I can. I haven't put any fertilizer down here. I'd like to. Only problem is that the roadway to get down here is still kind of soft. I'm going to see what it looks like on the other side, but I might be SOL, or I might have to wait a little bit longer yet. I really don't want to wait too much longer for putting down fertilizer. You don't really want to burn the crop, whatever else, but even as far as going with dry fertilizer, it's not an option. I mean, I have to be able to get down here first, which is part of the challenges that come with running this valley ground. It's wet. It's subject to flooding, which it didn't flood. I mean, the river is, it's at least 3 or 4 feet below the banks. I mean, it's not, I've seen it where it was level with the bank. Well, I've seen it where it's been 6 feet deep through here, but been pretty fortunate where we haven't had any major crazy flooding down here. It's just the problem lies in the fact that we've had so much wet weather the last couple of years, and I haven't been running this the last couple of years. I ran it back in 15, and this is just what I get to work with now that I'm back down here. I'm running this for the foreseeable future, and it helps that I have some past experience with like operating down here, because to be honest, if I would have rented this for the first time and had to deal with all this, I'd really be second guessing myself. But it was definitely a calculated risk when I agreed to run it again. So as far as some of the questions I've had about this place, well, question number one is, would we raise corn down here? They raise corn on the other side of the river, and it's got a big lake in the middle of it. Myself, I don't have a whole lot of desire to raise high input cost crops down in flooding prone areas, and bottoms like this, you almost guarantee they're going to flood at some point. But we had a mild winter, so we didn't have a lot of snow that was melting, so the river did back up. There's a difference from it straight out flooding, where you got a current going across it and it's cutting across the hay field back there. It's another thing where this spring I saw it where it actually backed up from the river, and it started on the lower end and just kind of gradually worked its way up. I don't mind that so much, but it's the insane amounts of water that's coming down through here that I'm really not crazy about. Also the fact that I don't, granted maybe a dry year, I really don't believe that I'd be able to get down here and plant this in a timely manner. I mean, it'd probably be June planting at best, and this year there's a reason why it was July before I cut this stuff. Couldn't get down to it. It was too soft down through here. For how much this floods, when you can expect that it's going to flood, I wouldn't want to come down here and tear up all this soil and then watch it all get washed down to the river. This is a hay farm. There's a reason why I refer to it as it's a hay farm. The hillside, that was in row crops. I raised soybeans on the field back in 15. It didn't do too bad, but also the type of soil that it had down here, that was also a challenge in itself. Secondly, why don't we raise cattle? It was either why don't we raise cattle or can't we raise cattle down here? You can. The owners have. The people that were down here before me have, but they ran electric wire where they needed to keep the cattle in. But the problem is, this is basically deer sanctuary 101 down here. Plenty of cover, plenty of food, and it's a sanctuary. And what I was told by the people that were down here before I took over, they said that you literally had to come down and you had to run the electric fences daily because the deer pressure is so heavy down here, because the deer are coming in and out of the fields and going up the hillsides. They said that you couldn't not check the fences daily because the deer usually did have the fences knocked off and they were grounded out, and then you have to worry about your cows getting out. That in itself is bad enough. I wouldn't even begin to consider actually making a permanent fence down here, just because that's what they have on the other end, and it's been underwater. I've seen underwater several times. And then you get weeds and sticks and everything caught in your fences. And this whole stretch is over a mile long. From end to end, it's at bare minimum a mile, but I do think it's a little bit longer than that. And I wouldn't want to have to begin to start on a mile-long fence and have to dig all of the grass and roots and sticks out of it after a major flood, which you can already expect down here. Really, that's why I manage this place the way I do. It needs fertilizer. The bottom, you can make the argument, people have made the argument, because it floods, that the nutrients that come from the river water and floods the field and it drops the nutrients into the field, that you don't need to put fertilizer down. That's false. My opinion for that is, if that was true, you wouldn't have been able to see where they've been taking the hay, taking the grass off these fields for the last several years. When I was down here in 15, I was actually able to spread fertilizer on the bottom. I mean, I don't know for a fact, but chances are I was the last one that put any fertilizer on any of this grass down here. I did. I got a little over 60 acres covered up top. I have some more up in the field I want to hit yet. It's just, I needed to do that work on the sprayer that I did. So the sprayer is good to go. But I was a little hesitant on ordering the fertilizer yet until I came down here and did this to actually see if the ground will actually carry me. I honestly feel that the field ground will carry me. That's not what I'm worried about. It's getting to the field. I don't want to bury the 46 in a ditch, in a mud hole, just trying to get over here. Because 300 gallons, you can make the argument I don't have to put all 300 gallons in, but that sprayer hanging off the back of that 46 with any amount of liquid in the back of it, that's a lot of weight in the back end of that tractor. And where I actually had to drive down in, because it's got between the swamps, the standing bodies of water, lakes, ponds, I don't know what you'd call them. They vary. I guess the names of them vary throughout different levels of flooding. Driving through those low areas where there's water flowing, or was flowing, they're so soft underneath, and unless you have somebody that's readily available to come down and help you, which granted at the moment I don't, you got to be really careful with what you're doing down here, because cell service is far from reliable down here. That is an added aspect with running this ground down here. If you get hurt, if you break down, if you get stuck, as long as you're able to, you may be doing some walking back up out of here or up a hillside just trying to get a cell signal. We haven't had any issues like that too major. I've been stuck down here once, the 46, and that was 5 years ago. I was bailing. It was actually on this end, back up where I started, and bailing right along, made a bail, backed up, dropped the bail out, and when I dropped the bail, the tractor sunk. So, oh well. Just chain, and knowing when to quit is huge too, and not just trying to ram the tractor back and forth, trying to get unstuck. But everything else that's down here yet, it was tedded out twice, and it's all green. The grass is regrowing back through it. The only reason I'm doing this windrow is because I have to, but the stuff that was tedded out, it's got plenty of regrowth coming through it already, and I'm feeling fairly certain I can come through and stream on some nitrogen. It'll get down to the soil, especially seems how they're calling for rain. Not a lot of rain. We're getting to the late summer. I think we're hopefully maybe possibly getting back to a little bit more of a regular weather pattern where it's not raining quite so often. We have a lot of hay up at home I want to get made yet. I'll be baling tomorrow, the stuff that I cut the other day, and then currently they're calling for 2 days of rain after tomorrow, and then they have us down for 5 or 6 days of drier weather. So we'll have to see. So, all right, let me get to the end here. Got about another 500 feet to go. Coming? Take that as a no. Somebody likes the air conditioning. This is actually what I'm dealing with, if you guys are curious. The grass is coming back not too bad. I hate to say it, there is a mat of material there from the first cutting I made. I think having it tedded out was huge. Didn't make a very thick mat, and this stuff will rot. Some of it will probably end up getting picked up when I come back through for a second cut, assuming I get a second cut. I should, but you don't count on anything ever. So this is what I'm doing, and here's a good example. This is what I was dealing with. You got to hit this twice, but yeah, it's essentially straw at this point. This is what people mean when they say Reed Canary is good bedding, because when it's this far gone, it is. It's straw. Its stalk is huge. Not as far gone as I wanted it. Literally, I actually did and still do have intentions of making better material than what I ended up with. But you also deal with the hand that you're dealt. I mean, backup plans to your backup plans. My backup plan to my backup plan is, if If I can't make this stuff for feed and it's not worth selling, I can actually use it for bedding. Or I just go through and buy some more cows and I dump it out without putting a bale ring around it and let them chew what they want from it, and then provide protein tubs and minerals and some extra grain if I have to. What I'm going to do, this is the end. We easily went half a mile, if not a little bit more, of grinding this up. This is the only reason I drove all the way down here. I say that, it's really not that far, 6 miles. I mean, our farthest farm is over, well, just about 15 miles. So this is what it looks like down here. This is a little over a week from when we were going to bale it. So the regrowth is coming back very nice. Plenty of moisture down here. So I guess we can look at the positive here. That nice matted material is going to keep the ground from drying out, right? Look, I'm grasping at straws here. I'm trying to be positive. Plenty of moisture here for a second cut. Only problem is I strongly feel like it needs fertilizer. My problem is that means bringing the 4640 down here with that liquid sprayer. I wouldn't even begin to try to bring a dry fertilizer spreader down here. I'm not that brave. I did it back in 15, but the way that's the thing that's really burning me is the fact that the bottom itself, I mean, it's not that, I mean, it's still, the stuff that's still standing is obviously too soft yet. I should be able to go back in through there, but I can't. The field actually goes back around that way, a little ways actually, but if you can't get down here, I mean, the field will actually hold you up. But actually driving down here, there was one spot where it's draining from the lowlands here, where it was a little soft yet, but just getting down here with the 46, I could cover it fairly quick. Might have to just do half tank loads, 150 gallons or 200 gallons as opposed to 300, but it's not the end of the world. I don't know, I'm weird. It's a big enough investment, but I'm holding the rake and the sprayer that I bought against my production down here, because I bought that rake, I bought that sprayer. Let's go for a walk. I bought both of those the intention of using them down here, because I bought them specifically because I knew I had this ground. I knew the conditions I was going to be in, and I'm going for tonnage. I could just come down here, no fertilizer in the spring, no fertilizer after each cut, then just mine the soil. The problem is, if you don't fertilize your crop, you're not going to have a crop eventually, and then you're shooting yourself in the foot. And I'm young enough yet, I'm dumb enough yet, I guess, depending on who you are and you guys actually understand what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to be diverse. It's working. That's something I wish I was, not even just me, I just wish that was something that growing up they taught you more in school. They encourage you to do more in school. Don't just go get a 9-to-5 job and just be content going home and passing out on the couch when you get home after working an 8-hour day. Or you go through, see, a little soft through here, but not actually that bad. Going out drinking on the weekends and dreading Monday, that's a pretty boring life. Diversify. Granted, I know I'm a farmer, I have more options than other people, but that's why when I had the opportunity to pick up this ground down here, I went ahead with the intentions that if I'm going to be raising it, I'm going to have some cattle, because I will have plenty of feed. Soft yet. Another, he said it's draining through here, and it looks to me like the deer actually, there is a deer trail. This is how far back it comes through here. So So you can see about how far we walked. Back to me saying what I said earlier, I'm weird. I kind of like it down here. It's quiet, it's isolated, we're far enough from the road. The road is that way, the neighbors are that way, and you actually come down here and work in peace, I mean, for the most part. But it being diverse, okay, what was I saying? Picking up this hay ground down here, it allowed me to actually buy some cows because I know how much material this can produce on a straight average year. You're going to have years where it's going to produce a lot more than you expected. You're going to have years like this year and last year, if I would have had it all year last year, where it would have underproduced. So like my grandpa always used to say, when it comes to marketing, and you always, like grandpa always sold his corn in June, and like he said, if you stay consistent, you're going to have up years, you're going to have down years, but in the end, the average, it levels out. And same thing with this. I'm going to have good years, bad years, but it's hay that I can actually potentially sell. Also, I'm going to have cows that will be paid off here within a matter of a handful of years, if even that. I was aiming for 3 or less, if even 3. And then the cows are actually paid for, and I'm keeping heifers back, I think. I'm kind of having a little change of heart as far as my heifers for this year. I'm not really, I have some issues with them. It's not like they're bad calves, but I'm kind of wondering if I like the genetics I'm seeing through them, if I shouldn't just, you know, send them out, get what I can out of them, and then go buy some more heifers that I prefer, or just pay down my loan that much quicker. But row crops, cows, hay ground. My grandpa, that was his argument with milking cows, was when you're milking cows, you always had that monthly check coming in, so that way you always had something you could depend on to pay your bills. Well, the problem is that when it comes to milking cows, you needed that monthly income to come in because you had so many expenses. See, nice, pretty scenic down here. I'd love to actually time it where we could be down here like sometime in September when the trees start turning. I think it was the first year we did it. Go to How Farms Work, the earlier, like the very first stuff where we were making the valley, like for the first time. I had it where I was making it when all the trees were orange and red, and it was really pretty down here. My brother-in-law actually helped us haul the hay out of here. So the problem is with dairy and expecting that monthly income is the fact that your expenses for the dairy cows typically ate up a lot of that monthly check that you were expecting. So my intentions with this hay in general is I saw the potential in producing enough hay, which even at this point, if I make everything I have left, I'm not going to produce the 600-700 bales, but I got about 150 plus that I'm already planning on selling. I have enough cow feed, but still having a few hundred bales to sell, even selling a load a week, and over 4 or 5 weeks or in a given month, that's still a monthly income through the hay like that. And I don't have nearly the expenses that I would have had if we would have kept milking cows. I hope I'm being somewhat clear there. It's a monthly income without huge expenses. As far as like producing this down here, okay, I lost how many bales? I lost probably 100 plus just from not being able to make this down through here. I lost 50 to 60 more on the far side just from the fact that it wasn't fertilized. I should have fertilized it this spring. I should have figured out how to get down here, but lessons learned. But I could sit here and ramble all dang day, but diversify, guys. I don't know where you're at, what walk of life you're in, what profession you're in. I know it's not just with farming. There's people in the city, people that work in town, that live in town. Finding other sources of income outside of your regular 9-to-5 job to help bolster your income at the end of the day, at the end of the month. And it's not about just spending it as fast as you can make it. I wish my 20s would have went so much differently if I was aware of how things work day in and day out by the time I was 30. So I need to get out of here. It's not that I don't want to be down here, but I don't really have time to be down here. I'm gonna hop back in, bug the dog, grind this up a little bit, and then drive right back down the same pass I just made to get down here. This is what it looks like. I mean, it's mulch, right? Well, it's gonna be ground up fine enough that the rain, lunch is coming back. The rain hits it, we get some wind. Granted, that's gonna be hit twice, you know, so hopefully more of like a fine powder. Rain, hopefully some wind before the rain, kind of spread it out a little bit. I could have brought the rhino cutter down. That's a 15-foot cut. And here's a good example right here. This is where the windrow was, but all this fresh regrowth that I just ground up is coming back. So give it some fertilizer. I like that liquid. It's more readily available as opposed to putting dry down anyway. And then with putting dry down, it's got to get the moisture to deteriorate enough to get into the soil. That liquid, drop it on the ground, it's already in the dirt, a little bit of rain, a little bit of moisture to move it into the roots, and the stuff on the hillside looks stinking awesome. I mean, the neighbor's place, you guys saw Ryan speed raking on. That looks nice. That's nice dark green. It doesn't have the grasses that I'd like to see on it, but with the fertilizer I put on it, I'm once again pretty sure I'm the last one that put any fertilizer on it. Optimistic. If you start, especially as a farmer, if you start being negative and only focusing on the negatives in life and the negatives in your operation, and not actually looking back and realizing that there's room to do this, there's room to do that, we could be changing this, and you start going down a slow spiral, should I say. And I'm feeling better about my operation, even in the years since I've started doing this. I don't do this as part of my my cash flow. I don't. Some people probably think we do, think that I do. I don't. I do this anymore to vent, to talk to people. I don't do this to pay my bills. I really don't. You guys pay my cell phone bill. Maybe pay my cell phone bill some months. Other than that, I do it because I like interacting with my viewers. I've grown, got over 40,000 subscribers, and I got enough regular viewers anymore that I would actually feel kind of terrible just up and stop posting someday. So I know I got my unofficial sponsors that I talk to. I just talked to Herschel and Myrna the other day, and everybody's just trying to stay positive in the times we're in. So I don't feel like I'm doing too bad. I'm not nearly as negative as everybody tries to say that I am, but it also keeps people away from me too, so win-win. Thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. I gotta get back to work. I'll give you guys updates on everything like I normally do. So thanks for watching, thanks for tuning in. Take care, take it easy, keep in touch. I'll talk to you guys later.